Please welcome Toddington Harper, the CEO of GRIDSERVE. A very warm welcome.
Hi. Oh, that's very loud. I was about to say, can you hear me? It sounds like you probably can. I just wanted to say, first of all, it's absolutely fantastic to be here. Thank you to the organisers for organising such a fantastic event. Thank you for really the vision and leadership of the UAE to put such a pivotal event here and such incredible ambition for the region and beyond. I was asked to speak today because I think it's fair to say that GRIDSERVE have revolutionized electric vehicle charging in the UK. And I'm going to be sharing some thoughts about how we will continue to do that, but on how we can kind of step up from what it is we've achieved thus far. So just a little bit briefly about GRIDSERVE. We are a tech-enabled sustainable energy business, and our very purpose, at our very core, is to deliver sustainable energy at the speed and scale required to move the needle on climate change. Climate change is a challenge that we hear a lot about, but it's increasingly evident that the timeframes to address climate change are becoming increasingly compressed. So the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, announced last year that this is our final chance as humanity. We need to peak global emissions by next year, 2025, and reduce them by 43% by 2030 to have the chance of keeping temperature rises to within 1.5 degrees of warming. And again, thanks to the incredible leadership at COP28, that was then reinforced under the Global Stocktake Agreement. So how do we do that? How do you move the needle on climate change? With this, it's really important to understand really what is the challenge that we're trying to address, and what solutions do we genuinely need to deliver if we're going to make the difference that's required. Fundamentally, it's about reducing carbon emissions, and it's about reducing gigatons of carbon emissions. And we need to do it quickly from multiple sectors, and as I've highlighted, we are running out of time. There's an incredible book called Speed and Scale, and Speed and Scale has put together a plan for how we can collectively address carbon emissions across multiple sectors within a certain time frame in order to keep 1.5 degrees alive. It summarizes that we need to reduce 59 gigatons of carbon emissions by 2050 and stages towards that process, about half of which we can reduce from electrifying transport and also providing clean energy by decarbonizing our grid. And this is an area that GRIDSERVE are particularly focused on, have been focused on from the beginning, and I guess that's why we come to this equation with an ecosystem approach to what it is that we do. So that's the goal, 59 gigatons of carbon emissions by 2050 at the latest, in the earliest possible timeframes. And a gigaton is 1 billion tons of carbon emissions. So it's a big number, so we need to address that with the requisite solution. To rise to the challenge of the climate crisis, we therefore must replace hundreds of millions of legacy vehicles with new electric vehicles, and as was highlighted on the panel earlier, together with the clean energy infrastructure that's required to ensure those vehicles run in the cleanest possible way. And we need to do this at an incredible pace. There's amazing progress that's being made, but we need to go faster. So how do we do it? And GRIDSERVE are at the forefront of delivering. We believe that the solution to really kind of make a difference in the transition to electric vehicles is to make it easy. To make it easy for customers so that they can transition to electric vehicles, not because they have to, because it's the right thing to do with climate change, but because, which we will need to do anyway, but because it's just a better experience. It's an experience that's seamlessly connected. It means that you can use charging infrastructure that's really world-class, digital solutions that make the customer experience phenomenal. That infrastructure is powered by clean energy, And these networks can be delivered at incredible pace by standardizing the products, the solutions, the technology to a technology platform, and ultimately one that we can provide the requisite funding to deliver this at pace. It's just not going to be possible for everyone to reinvent the wheel, let alone what GRIDSERVE called the sun to wheel. We applied an ecosystem approach to how we thought about this several years ago. I've been building businesses, sustainable energy businesses now for more than 20 years. In fact, my mother and father were in the UAE building solar energy and battery businesses. The first solar energy and battery business, as I'm aware, around 47 years ago. So it's an incredible opportunity to be back here to speak with you today. We've really analyzed the modern transportation system, which has delivered incredible benefits for humanity. I would imagine many people at this event arrived here on an aeroplane. And what's behind all of that is, as we know, oil wells. The energy needs to be refined, it needs to be transported, it needs to be distributed, and ultimately it is used typically in combustion vehicles. And that system works incredibly well, but as we are all fully aware, there are significant emissions created as a result. So what we need is a just transition. We need a pragmatic transition that allows us to transition from one ecosystem to another within the timeframes we have available to address the challenge of the climate crisis. And this needs to be a pragmatic solution. So in terms of pragmatism, if you go back 300 million years, we thought a lot about where does the energy actually come from. We think that we're putting diesel and petrol into our cars. We think the energy comes from diesel and petrol, and often because you suck it out the ground, we think the energy comes from the ground, but it doesn't. If you go back 300 million years, all the energy in oil and gas came from the sun. It was harvested by plants through photosynthesis, and regions like the UAE, which is blessed in sunshine, have therefore abundant resources of this energy source. So applying that methodology, we've looked to use the same energy source, but instead of 300 million year old sunshine, we've been using 8-minute sunshine, which is the time that it takes for sun's energy to reach the earth from the sun today. We refine that solution through using batteries to make that energy more valuable, more useful, and also stabilize the grid. We transport it using cables as opposed to pipelines and tankers, and ultimately we distribute it through charging stations into a wide variety of electric vehicles. Energy, charging, cars, with an underlying technology platform that connects it all together and makes the process seamless, easy, and net zero. So what do we mean by that? Well, this is an example of what we've achieved. So this was the first solar farm that we built in the UK. It was a pioneering project. We built it without the requirement for any subsidies. We look at this as our modern equivalent of an oil well. And even in the UK, which isn't as blessed for sunshine as the Middle East, for every acre, and bear in mind this is a 200-acre solar farm here, for every acre of land, we can generate more than 1 million electric vehicle miles every single year. So apply that to the UAE, this region, you're looking at 2 million plus miles of EV charging per acre of land. Isn't that incredible? Sunshine that would otherwise just land on the ground. We developed additional technology to make the projects work without the requirement for subsidies, so it's a little difficult to tell, but in the top picture here you can see batteries. There's 30 megawatt hours of battery storage. That's the equivalent of your refinery, and we transmit that energy very efficiently through the grid. We often have discovered that there are significant challenges related to the grid itself, and as a result we have worked on delivering solutions that address those challenges. For example, remote power solutions. Often you find you don't have the grid capacity, or sometimes perhaps there's no grid capacity there at all, no grid connection. So what we brought to the table is our solutions to actually deliver grid solutions that can either stabilize the existing grid or can provide grid solutions in their own right. And this is an example on this picture here on the left, how we're using these remote power solutions to also power electric construction machinery. so we can ensure that not just that we deliver projects that are themselves a net zero, but the cost and the carbon to actually deliver them is minimized as much as possible. This was the first project that we actually launched. It's quite rare for a company to say a project like this is the first piece of charging infrastructure that they delivered, but we did. So I've been driving an electric car now for 10 years. I was convinced that electric was going to be the way to go because the vehicles are fantastic, but the charging experience hasn't been that great. And so what we did is we worked very hard to design a solution that could provide, not something that just is as good as what we currently have, but better, that delivers the best possible customer experience. We were very fortunate to receive backing from our key partner, who we've stayed along the journey with, Hitachi Capital, together with the British government, to turn a project like this, which we created initially as a 3D model, to turn it into reality. It was very difficult getting a project like this over the line. It was before the British government had brought in policy to mandate electric vehicles. And so we really had to work very hard to deliver multiple revenue streams. So we have, of course, EV charging, but we also have battery projects here on the top that are providing grid services, balancing the grid. We have integrated retail. We've got Costa Coffee. We have Marks and Spencer's. We've got a great partnership with Tesla. And we also built an EV business model to assist the uptake of electric vehicles as well. The next project, and people often say to me, this is CGI. This isn't CGI, by the way, just in case any of you are curious. These are all real pictures. So this was the next project we wanted to deliver. We only had an area of land that was about a third of the land in the previous example. And so we had to, again, work harder. We had to find more solutions. We had to pioneer, different models of making this work. And so what you'll notice in this charging solution is that the vehicles actually charge underneath the building, both at the front and at the back as well. So what we were able to do was put the same amount of charging infrastructure into a location that was about 1/3 of the size. And again, it delivers, as you can imagine, that absolutely phenomenal, seamless customer experience. So the latest project of this type is this. This is at Gatwick Airport. And anyone visiting Gatwick, and I extend an open invitation if you'd like to have a tour around it. For this site, we actually had an even smaller amount of land. We had 20% of the space of the first electric forecourt. And so we had to work even harder. So much happens underneath this building. You can even see right the way under it. But again, we also have batteries. We have huge amounts of very high power chargers. And I'll talk about that just a little bit in the next slide. We also have an incredible retail experience that we work together with Amazon on Just Walk Out. So you walk into the retail store, you tap your credit card, you can then pick up whatever you like, your sandwiches, something to drink, turn around, walk out the store, and it all bills you automatically. So it's really not just about how do we match what we have today, it's about how do we deliver the best possible customer experience so that people make this transition, not just because they feel they need to for environmental reasons, but because it's just a better thing to do. It provides an incredible customer experience. So we don't just build facilities like that, we also build what we call electric super hubs. So pretty much all of the chargers that we've installed across the UK, and we now have more than 180 charging locations in the UK, they have these chargers, which are 350 kilowatt or even 360 kilowatt chargers. So what does that mean? It means that the vehicles are capable, so the chargers are capable of providing more than 100 miles of EV charging in only 5 minutes. And so people a few years ago would say to me, are you sure? Are you sure we need to do that? I was very sure. In the UK, a 7 kilowatt charger is still called a fast charger. Because 10 years ago, when someone gave it that name, people thought that you would charge a car from a plug socket, which was half of that speed. And so, things have moved forward. A 7 kilowatt charger, I think, as we all know, is no longer fast. I saw the first 50 kilowatt chargers being introduced, and I was very certain that what we needed was to provide infrastructure which was future-proof. And for that reason, we adopted 350 kilowatt chargers. But the interesting thing is, about a month ago, I started thinking, crikey, we need more powerful chargers, because CATL, so the world leader that supplies about 40% of the world's batteries, introduced a new battery that they called the Shenzing Plus. And that battery is capable of charging the vehicle fully in less than 3 minutes. So this progress is happening, and it's happening incredibly fast. And what we've been working on is delivering solutions that can provide the best charging experience irrespective of where you are in location. And this is another example of how we delivered a canopy. Again, it's a solar canopy for this site as well. But also we delivered it in a location that just had really poor grid capacity, which we boosted with a battery on top. So what about trucks? What about bigger vehicles? The first business that I created in 22 years ago was a hydrogen fuel cell company, and we were working, very, very hard to commercialize the technology. But for vehicles, and hydrogen has many, many uses, but for vehicles, it's difficult. It's difficult because it's expensive. And the problem with electric vehicles was that if you needed an electric vehicle to go quite a long distance, then you'd have to have a very big battery. That battery would be very heavy, and that meant that you couldn't transport the payload, which made it all very expensive. But that's all changing now, and it's changing because these vehicles are designed to be charged very, very quickly. We put an incredible consortium together, and this was the launch event. Again, this is not CGI either. These are all real vehicles at a real location. And we're developing and building a UK-wide charging network for electric heavy goods vehicles. In the UK, there is a law that every 4.5 hours, a vehicle needs to stop for 45 minutes, which means you need chargers during that 45-minute break that can provide around 250 plus miles of range, which is what the chargers are able to do. But in addition to that, we're also delivering the first megawatt chargers. So these megawatt chargers are capable of providing 1,000 miles of charge in only an hour, 500 miles in half an hour, and so really you'll be able to charge trucks, provided you've got the right amount of power, in let's say 20 minutes or even less, given the battery capacity will allow for that. It was an incredible consortium. Again, we've maintained our close relationship with Hitachi, who has been our principal partner here, but we also then enlarged that relationship to partner with Volvo, Renault, DAF, Amazon again, and some incredible partners, again supported by the UK government, who awarded us the largest ever innovation grant that they've awarded to any business in the UK to do this. And we've also built alongside this an EV adoption model, an EV leasing model. Again, it was really interesting to hear the comments in the last section on how we can really help assist the uptake of electric vehicles themselves by providing vehicle models that make the economics compete and that hopefully outcompete existing solutions. That also, again, just makes it easy from sun to wheel. So that's where we've come from. That's what we've built. But I can tell you it's going to be very difficult for other people to do what we've done at the speed and scale required to address the climate crisis. There's a huge amount of knowledge to what we've done. There's a huge amount of learning. And what we're really focusing on now is how we can take the next phase so that people don't have to reinvent the sun to wheel. People don't have to reinvent and have to go through all the learning curves that we've had to do, including how we raise money. We've raised over £1 billion in total in all the different facilities. We've raised over £500 million in funding for bank financing only last year. And so what we've really been working on hard is how we can create a model to really deliver speed and scale in other territories. And it's something we call the partner network. So GRIDSERVE now, as a result of what I've shown you, we are now the market leader in the UK. We are charging more than 200,000 electric vehicles every single month and counting. Our next milestone is 250,000 vehicles in a month. And you know what? It's not going to be very many months until we hit that, I'm very sure. We're supplying more than 5 gigawatt hours, so more than 20 million EV miles of charge every single month. And so what we've developed is a platform to be able to standardize with standardized products, services, and solutions to work with other partners around the world that are also interested in delivering best-in-class charging networks fit for the mass market, but without having to kind of reinvent the wheel, without having to go through all the learning curves, a model where we can standardize products, services, technology, and solutions. And this is kind of a highlight of some of our thinking behind the solutions. These are conceptual, these haven't been delivered yet, but really we thought very, very hard on how we can deliver integrated tech, integrated digital solutions, seamless connectivity for hubs, for trucks, and for electric forecourts as well, which again we're very, very excited to pioneer with different partners. It's about productizing what we do. It's about standardizing everything, both on the physical infrastructure, but also on the digital infrastructure itself. And it's the digital that makes it easy. Even a few years ago, people would say, when people would be worried about, even if there is charging infrastructure, the next piece they would worry is it going to be reliable? And it's the digital that makes it reliable. It's the digital that makes it seamless. And so that's really where we've been focusing a lot of our efforts as well. We've been focusing on really incredible, technologies that exist today, IoT, data, AI, machine learning, composable solutions, which we can put together in a portfolio of solutions and make these available to partners, and we can improve these over time. In addition to that, we've also been working on blockchain technology. Because if we're going to address the climate crisis, if we're going to reduce gigatons of carbon emissions, then we need to measure that. We need to measure precisely how useful have we been? How many tons of carbon emissions have we saved today, in the last half an hour? And so that's a really important part of what we're doing heading forward, providing empirical data that says not just what it is we're doing, how many vehicles we're charging, but the benefits of that. That's all possible because we're building a platform that extends from the physical infrastructure, again, this is a real picture, to the digital infrastructure, so smart connectivity. And when you can provide that, the next phase is then the virtualization of that infrastructure as well. Again, to make it incredibly easy for customers and users and operators of networks as well to deliver really world-class charging infrastructure at speed and scale. That's possible with, again, a common technology stack of different types of chargers, and there's some incredible charging innovation I've seen at this show as well. So being agnostic to hardware, but ensuring we can pull the data in and use it in the way that it's incredibly useful. Has something we call mission control that allows you to operate and run a network, understand where there are issues. If a customer has an issue, they can pick up the phone, you can resolve it very quickly, you can order spare parts, all that sort of side of it. And a mobile app that just makes the process incredibly seamless and as straightforward as possible, and backed behind that a whole development ecosystem so we can continue to make this experience better and better and better, more and more smart, connected. So I hope that was a useful kind of quick overview of what it is that we've achieved so far, where we are heading, but ultimately there's quite a long way for us to go. In order for us to get there, we really believe in partnership. That's what's most important. We collectively just don't have time to kind of work out how to do all of this. Again, I have some very small girls, 4 little girls, and they're not yet of working age, so they don't have the time to address the climate crisis in the way that we do. And we need to recognize the responsibility and the opportunity that we have to both address this challenge, but also to seize the economic opportunities by becoming the leader. And I have absolutely no doubt with the vision that I've seen in this part of the world that the leadership position will continue to grow. And so will GRIDSERVE, and we are very, very interested in partnership. And if there are people out listening to you that say, look, I really like the sound of what you said, I think, working together we could give us a head start. I'm really interested in finding those solutions. Or even if you just are doing what we do and you want to learn, I'd be very, very happy to share information. And for that reason, I've also shared my WhatsApp, which I understand, particularly in this part of the world, is a way that people like communicating as well, on that page as well. So I'd love to hear from you. I hope you found this interesting. Together we can make it happen. Together we can address the climate crisis, and together we can create business opportunities that are equal and certainly supersede even those incredible opportunities that the infrastructure for today's current system has also been built of. And together we can come together and really celebrate the journey. So thank you very much. I hope that was interesting for you.
Hello, my name is Efe from Turkey. My question is more about your infrastructure. What is the ratio of, you've been saying that you've been charging more than 200,000 cars per month, but what is the ratio of the usage of your equipment? Do you know, like a time-wise, or what's the percentage of the usage of the equipment?
What sort of ratio?
I mean, it could be like the capacity you have, like, let's say, 120 kilowatt charger, and you have 24 hours, right?
Yes.
A day. What is the capacity usage of your infrastructure there?
Okay, so we have utilization over 15%, if that's the question. It takes just over half an hour on average across those 200,000 charging sessions to charge each vehicle. They spend roughly half an hour, and we dispense roughly 25 kilowatt hours of energy approximately per session. And that is increasing over time. The other measure that's very important is the average power, because often people are wanting to spend maybe 20 minutes at a location or 30 minutes, and so the important measure as well is to see that you can increase average power, but all of the charges that we are delivering, almost all of them, apart from where the location requires a different solution, are 350 or 360 kilowatt charges as well. And we're seeing incredible trends. The revenue that we had in the business has increased, many times. In fact, every month we're kicking goals and hitting new records across the spectrum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.